Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stanislav. I am a judo black belt, a physical therapist, and a strength and conditioning fan. And today in this video, we're going to talk about judo and the relationship that there is between randori and judo. One big mistake that I see, that I've done myself, that I see that a lot of my peers, a lot of judoka, especially the lower belts, are doing, is that there is no relationship between the Uchi Komi and the randori. They are like two separate things. And the thing is, this is a bad approach. There must be a bidirectional relationship between the randori and the Uchi Komi. What do I mean by that? Why do we do uchikomi? As uchikomi means putting, it means literally input in Japanese. You are trying to automate movements that you're later going to perform inside the randori. There was an Olympic champion that I've met once that told me, for me, uchikomi means trying what is going to happen later. Which means during uchikomi you must think about situations that you will likely going to encounter inside the randori, and then try to expose yourself to that kind of situation over and over again in order to prepare yourself for what will happen in randori. And on the other hand, if you see a situation that you've never encountered before, or a recurrent situation that you find yourself in, you should think about this situation and start to do uchikomi about this thing in the most similar way as possible. Okay, and what I see a lot of guys are doing is that they are doing uchikomi in one way. They are doing, like, let's say, uchimata, basic uchimata, and then they're doing randori with different grips, with completely different technique. They are like doing drop seinage, which is kind of doesn't make sense. You're preparing yourself, you're training, you're doing tons of reps of uchimata, you're not even performing uchimata. Why? Why are you doing that? If you feel more comfortable doing morite seinage during randori, why don't you do uchikomi of morite seinage at this point? If you feel like this technique, it's more aligned to you, change that. Start to practice that more. If you feel that this technique will give you much more scoring points, why don't you perform just morite seinage? But they still insist to keep these two things as very separate, while there must be a relationship between the two. The second thing that I would change, likely if I was younger and I have the possibility to change that later, is to not just perform uchikomi in the basic way, as the Japanese are doing. Like, I go in, I go out, I go in, I go out, while you're static. What I would do would be to look at the situation that happened in the randori and start to reproduce that as frequently, as similar as possible in my uchikomi. For example, I grab the sleeve, he grabs on my lapel, I try sodetsuri komigoshi. Sleeve, he grabs on my lapel, sodetsuri komigoshi. You have to instruct your uke, the one who is receiving the technique, the one who is helping you. You have to instruct them to recreate the situation that will happen later. You gotta talk to your uke. You gotta tell him, hey, can you give me a little bit more resistance? Or can you put the grip like that? Can you pull me like this? Can you do that? Can you put yourself into left versus right situation? Okay, you gotta talk, you gotta communicate with your uke in order to recreate the situation that you want to try and improve as much as you possibly can. Okay, because the technique that because you might say, okay, but if you look at how the Japanese are training, how the Japanese judoka are training, they are doing tons of uchikomi. They are doing tons of uchikomi and it works for them, which is true. But what the Japanese are also doing is that they are doing around 25 randoris a day, every day. Okay, I probably don't do 25 randoris in a week. Okay, I probably don't do 25 randoris in a week. In one day, it seems something that it's out of my mind for me. Okay, so yes, it's true that they are doing static uchikomi, but the reality is they are doing a lot of static uchikomi and a lot of randori. They're doing a lot of practice. They are exposing themselves so much against other opponents who are equally strong, equally as technical, and they're learning patterns, they're learning situations just by simple exposure. Okay, they are doing a lot of randori, a lot of practice, so they don't really need to do this kind of thinking and trying to put trying to emulate. You say, oh, Japanese are so strong, Japanese judoka is so strong, I need to train like them to become as strong. Doesn't really work, because first of all, you're not Japanese. Second, you are not training in Tenri University with Maruyama and Shohei Ono. You're likely not training with these high level people. So just doing like the Japanese won't work. What you need to do is to understand what are the principles that they're using, and it's helping them to becoming better, and try to recreate that in your context, in your dojo, in your own environment, to become the best judoka that you possibly can. You can just look at what the pros are doing, copy, control C, control V, and just copy their program and hope to become the best judoka you possibly can. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Trust me. I have tried that for a long time, and I can tell you that skill acquisition doesn't work like that. You need to recreate the situation as much as possible and then put the reps in. You must have a specific technique with a specific grip and a specific kuzushi that you want to apply on, and then recreate that situation. See what works in randori, try that again in uchikomi. Practice that much in uchikomi and try to do that in randori. There must be this bidirectionality between the two stuff. They cannot exist in two separate chambers. Okay, you gotta mix it in. You gotta do that if you want to become a better judoka and improve your skill. That's what I wanted to say. That's just a thought that come through my mind. As I said, I am a physical therapist. I've done judo for 15 plus years, so I have a little bit of experience in that. So if you need some help, if you need some advice about judo, rehab, or strength and conditioning in your physical training, you can write me down a comment. You can write me a DM, a comment. You have all the information in the description. I will help you for free, and I will be gladly happy to do that. Thank you for watching. Remember to aim upward as always.